Hello everyone and welcome back to the Successfully Balanced podcast. I am your host Aria and I am so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for being here today. If you do enjoy this podcast, and it would mean the world to me if you could give it a rating on Spotify. It takes you 5 seconds and it helps the algorithm push this podcast out to even more people so we can help even more people. If you are new here, this podcast is for the ambitious women building their career, their businesses or their lives in some way, and they want to level up, but in a way that is sustainable and doesn't burn them out. And if you're watching on YouTube and you'd like to hear more, then you can subscribe to the podcast or follow if you're on Spotify so you don't miss another episode. But today we are talking about how to 10 times your productivity using systems. I think systems is my favorite word at the moment. But before we get into all that, I would love to share with you guys something that I have been doing this week to embody the notion of successfully balanced. So something that I've been doing to work towards my goals, and also something that I've been doing just to be more balanced and relaxed and just enjoy my life. Now, if you have been watching my stories on Instagram, you would know that I've been building a system called the Life Architect System. If you aren't following me already, this is my Instagram @byAriaEmily. But the Life Architect System is pretty much a plug and play system that is everything that I do on a daily basis and everything that I have done to reach almost 100,000 followers, to launch my business, become an award-winning founder, triple my income, and literally just so much more. And as of this podcast being released, the system will officially have been launched, so I will leave the link so that you can check it out in the show notes. Something else that was super exciting that happened this week is that I did my first ever workshop to a group of about 20 something women who are building their personal brands and their businesses and their careers. And I got to teach them high performance and sustainable high performance for women. And that was just so exciting. And I felt so honored to have that opportunity. And I was so lucky because so many of them afterwards sent me messages saying, "Thank you so much for sharing. This has really helped." And so that was so heartwarming and just a really amazing experience. And I'm really hoping to be able to do more of those kind of things throughout the year, because that was one of my big goals this year, was to run a workshop. And we've achieved it, and it's officially just the start of March. So I'm really happy with that, and I'm really excited to do more of that. And something that I've been doing for balance and for my well-being this week is I went and so I saw my grandparents yesterday afternoon, and it is always just so lovely to see them and just to chat about random stuff, and it just helps me to take my mind off things, or sometimes we chat about things that I've been stressed about and then I leave feeling more relaxed and certain about what's happening. And it's just a really lovely way because I get to spend time with them and I love them so much. And I would love if you guys could leave a comment and let me know something that you have been doing to either work towards your goals or to just enjoy your life more and have more balance. But now into the actual episode. So first of all, I want to explain what exactly is a system, because it has been my favorite word recently, and I think that word is being thrown a lot around at the moment, but I want to break it down and explain exactly what it is. So we all have systems in our lives already, and your systems are basically your default way of doing things, your default sequence of doing things. So for example, your morning routine, that is a system. And if you're filming content, then the order that you film those things, that is your system. And the way that you organize your life, that is a system. It's all the default ways that you organize and that you undertake things. And there are a number of things that we can do and change and add to our systems that we can help us to become as productive as possible. So in today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you, I think it's actually 14 steps to optimize your systems to become as productive as possible. And these are basically the steps that it would take to build a system that would potentially optimize your productivity by 10 times each day. The aspects of what I'm going to talk about here do align very closely with the Life Architect System. So if you're listening and thinking, yes, this is exactly what I need, then you can check it out in the show notes. So number one is a life audit. Before we even begin to start creating new systems for ourselves and creating new plans, new ideas, we want to evaluate exactly where we are at. So the strengths and the weaknesses of our current way of doing things, where we want to go, and what we can actually do to get there. Some of the questions that are asked in this life audit include: what is currently weighing you down? What would you do if you could spend all the time on it? Where do you wish to see yourself in 5 years? What is draining your energy versus what is adding to your energy? And just a complete 360 of where you are currently. And doing this should give us a super clear picture of where you currently stand, and will give us a really good foundation for the next step. So number two is a vision board. This one is partially just for fun, but also having a visual representation of what you want to accomplish makes it so much clearer for your brain, and seeing it often will remind you of those goals that you have for yourself and remind you to be taking action towards them every single day. I have my vision board here. If you're watching on YouTube or you're watching the video on Spotify, that is mine. I make one every single year. Sometimes I even make them more frequently. But it is just such an awesome opportunity to take the goals that you've written down for yourself and the goals that you're thinking of in your head and actually print them out, put them on paper, put them somewhere you can see them all the time, and I promise you, even if you don't consciously do the things that are on the vision board, sometimes they just happen. I made a reel last year where I showed my vision board versus reality, and even making that reel, I didn't realize until I made that reel just how many things had actually happened. There was even a video, like that one of my photos on my vision board was someone jumping into the water. There was a video of me jumping into the water on the exact same angle, and I didn't even intend to take that photo. Literally my friend took it and I didn't even ask her to. It's crazy. Anyways, number 3 is 12-week goal setting. So this is how you turn your vision board into actionable goals. So what I want you to do is, I'm sure you've created yearly goals already, everyone does. But if you break down those yearly goals into quarters, technically a quarter is 13 weeks, but for the sake of this, let's just do 12 weeks. So for example, if you want to run a marathon by the end of the year, which is one of my goals, then you could break that down into 4 parts, being 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers, 30, 40 kilometers, or 42 kilometers technically. And then you would assign that quarter of the goal to each quarter of the year or each 12-week goals. And then you would assign yourself mini checkpoints for each of the weeks. So for example, with me running 10K in the first quarter, that's 12 weeks. So in the first week, I'd run 1K, second week I'd run 2Ks, and then eventually I'd build up with a couple of weeks repeating. And when doing your goal setting, I want you to write down why this goal is important to you. I want you to have a photo of that goal, like a little mini vision board, and a due date for when it's finished. And then I also want you to have a weekly checklist to cross off your progress towards that goal. Number 4 is your monthly and weekly layout. This is when you're going to take your goals and you're going to give them an actionable time slot. So get a monthly calendar and slot in your individual mini deadlines that you created from your 12-week goal setting framework, and then slot in the actions that you need to take each day or each week to get to them. So for example, if you want to run 10Ks, I'm just using this because it's really easy with numeric goals, then each week you want to increase it by 1 kilometer. And just say this is week 5 and you're doing 5 kilometers, then maybe you would have a short run on a Monday and a short run on a Friday and then a long run on a Saturday. That is my current training plan, so it's really easy for me to use that example. But you want to basically slot the actions that it's going to take for you to reach that milestone by the end of the week, so that you will add those milestones up and you will reach your goal by the end of the month and the end of the quarter. And then when you compound all that together, then by the end of the year, theoretically, you should have achieved your goal. Now, number 5 is your daily focus formula. This one is super important because the ability to focus on a daily basis, our days make up our weeks. So if you can focus more in one day, you can focus well in a week and a month, etc. So first of all, it's a really good idea to do a brain dump of all the tasks that you need to get done in the day, or just all the tasks that are on your mind. Then split them into quick tasks and longer projects. So quick tasks are the ones that are less than 5 minutes. So just like hanging out the washing or throwing out the flowers that are dead, which by the way, guys, the flowers that I mentioned 2 episodes ago, they're still here. They're still alive and they still look really good. Look at this. They're 2 weeks old. They're so good. Sorry, I got distracted. But your quick tasks are ones that take 5 minutes and they're just really small tasks that you just have to get done. And then you want to also group into longer projects. So those ones will take you probably at least half an hour. And those are things which contribute to your project, such as if you're writing a book, then one of those longer tasks could be writing a chapter of it or writing an outline. Then you also want to choose your 3 non-negotiables. So if you got nothing else done today and you only got 3 things done, what 3 things would those be that would make today a success for you? And then I want you to assign actual time blocks to get these tasks done. So first of all, I would start with your non-negotiables. So block in your top 3 non-negotiables first. So just say that is scripting a reel from 10 until 12, and then, I don't know, other ones. And then around that, then put your other tasks, which are sort of like, if I get time, then I'll do these. And then with your quick tasks, I will explain how to do them soon. Number 6, your standard operating procedures. These have been such a game changer for me recently. These are a procedure of a task that you routinely do each week that is sort of broken into smaller tasks. So for example, for me, that is scripting content and filming content. So scripting content will start off with me planning out the topics that I'm going to do, and then scripting my talking head reel, like my series reel, scripting my podcast, scripting the carousel, everything like that. And I pretty much do the exact same procedure every single week. So write out those procedures. So it could be for cleaning as well. So for example, clean the toilet, then clean the sinks, then whatever. And actually put timestamps for each thing so that you actually know how long it's going to take for you to get that whole block of tasks done. For example, I used to think that scripting my content was just going to take me 4 hours. I'll just do it when I get around to it. And then I'd start the task and then it would just go on and on. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is taking me 8 hours. It's crazy. And then 1, I had to refine it because I cannot spend 8 hours writing content at the moment. And then 2, I had to systemize it so that basically now it takes me 5 hours every single week, and I can grab that 5-hour block and I can block it into my Saturday. When I start work at 8 a.m, I know exactly what I'm doing for the next 5 hours. And same with filming my content. This right now, me filming the podcast is step 2 step 3 of my system for filming. All right, number 7 is habit tracking. Habits are the tiny little actions that we do without even thinking about them. So they are our default actions. And every habit, whether you are aware of it or not, is either taking you closer towards your goals or taking you further away from them. Because for the example, the effect of watching a reality TV show for an hour every night versus watching a book on a topic that you want to get stronger in, they are obviously going to have a pretty big compounding effect over time. Now, the point of habits is that they are default and we do them without thinking, but often when we are trying to embed a new healthy habit into our life, it does take a bit more prompting. And this is why I recommend a habit tracker for at least the first 3 weeks of starting a new habit. Habit stacking is also a really important thing that you can utilize to help you make healthy habits more easy to implement. And this is from, I believe, James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, which if you haven't read, you need to get onto it because everyone's read it and it's the best book ever. It's so good. But he talks about habit stacking. So basically finding a habit that you already do just by nature, like brushing your teeth, for example, and then stacking it with another habit before or after or during that. So for example, if you're trying to run for a marathon and you need stronger calves, then what you could do is while you're brushing your teeth, that brushing teeth is a trigger for your brain to go, now I need to do my calf raises. Or if you want to get into the habit of messaging your grandparents every morning, then perhaps grabbing your car keys to get in the car is a trigger. So you pick up your car keys and think, car keys reminds me of grandparents. I don't know, it's a bit random. And then you pick up your phone and you message them, and it's that sequence of events. And then once you've done that for the day, you can check it off on your habit tracker and hold yourself accountable to keeping that streak. And of course, I really want to mention a couple of healthy habits that improve productivity. So first of all, exercise, especially aerobic exercise, and especially in the morning, because it increases blood flow to your brain and helps you to focus and concentrate better. Obviously journaling, but especially in morning pages. This is something that one of my mentors suggested the other day. And basically what you do is you get 3 pages and you basically just free write whatever's on your mind. And it really helps you to just get out of your own way and get the thoughts that are weighing you down just out of your brain so that you can just stop worrying about them and just have them out of your headspace. Obviously meditation, and in the Life Architect system, I have personally recorded a 5-minute meditation for anyone who is in the Life Architect system, and it was a really interesting experience. I've never recorded a meditation before, but I think it was good. I think it was good enough. And then also drinking matcha instead of coffee. Obviously this is different for everyone and everyone has preferences. I used to drink coffee every single day. I now don't, and I also don't drink matcha every single day. But the reason that I switched over was just because I found that coffee made me feel so anxious. And I sit down and start working and I'd be like, why am I so stressed? Like there's nothing to be stressed about. And I would just be like, oh, I gotta get this work done. I gotta reply to this person. And it was just not comfortable. And I realized it was because when I drink caffeine, it speeds up your metabolism and your anxiety and all of that. So now when I'm really tired, I'll drink matcha and I just feel so much better. Number 8, long-term progress trackers. So these hold you accountable for your progress in the long term, and this is different to your 12-week progress trackers where you're just checking off week 1 I did this, week 2 I did this, but this is a really long-term thing, and you can basically use these progress trackers to view the compounding effect of your actions over time. And this is really interesting. I'll actually show you, I'll put in a screenshot of my follower growth over time, because I basically put in the number of posts that I did and then also the growth of followers. And as you can see at the start, there was hardly anything. I posted for 2-3 months and I didn't get any followers, maybe, I don't know, maybe 100 total. And then all of a sudden it started compounding and took off, and now I'm almost at 100,000. And this is really indicative of the ice cube theory, which I think James Clear also writes in his book. If you haven't read Atomic Habits already, please just go read it, because I reference it so much. And basically the ice cube theory states that, imagine you are in a room and you have an ice cube and it's currently -5 degrees Celsius, and you raise the temperature to -4 degrees Celsius, and that ice cube is the exact same. It doesn't change at all. And you're trying to melt the ice cube and you change it, you turn the temperature up until -3 degrees, ice cube is still frozen. You're like, what is the point? Nothing's happening. -2 degrees, still nothing. You get to -1 degrees and you're like, I'm gonna give up. Nothing's happened to the ice cube. I'm not gonna be able to do it. And then you change it out 1 more degrees and then it starts melting. And it wasn't that it just started melting at that last bit of effort. It was all the effort that you put in beforehand that causes your results to happen. So just remember that when you feel like your progress is not getting anywhere, which honestly I have felt for the past few months with sort of pivoting what I talk about, my audience and everything, it has felt like those actions are not really getting me anywhere yet, but I have faith in the compounding effect of those actions. And I know that even if it takes a year, I'm gonna eventually see the results of that. A couple of long-term progress trackers that you can try is finances. So for example, your savings over time, your content, so followers, things like that. And perhaps also if you're building strength at the gym, you could count the number of total repetitions that you do every week or whatever. Number 9 is your custom systems. So these are ones that you build by yourself and suit exactly what you need for your life. So for example, this could be a fitness system designed specifically for helping you train for a specific event, or I use a content system so I know what I'm posting and when. So for example, I have a little table where it has my content pillars and my content formats, and then I have which week I'm posting that pillar in which format. I'm not going to go into too much depth because it's kind of complicated, but I'll put a photo here so that you can see what I'm talking about. The point of these is just to be completely personalized to what you need. So after you've been using systems like the Life Architect system for a while, you can sort of understand what parts of it are super helpful for you and which parts you want to extend on more specific to what you need in your life. And that is where you can create your own custom systems. All right, number 10 is your lock-in ritual. So this is basically a sequence of events that you do before starting your work for the day. And what you do before you start your work basically can make or break your productivity. And when you have a lock-in ritual, it helps your brain to recognize that right now it's time to lock in. I need to actually get focused and start doing my work. Because if you sit down at your desk with no sense of direction and you haven't primed your brain for focus, then most likely you won't get any meaningful work done, or it will take you a very long time to get into a position mentally where you can get that meaningful work done. So I strongly recommend creating a lock-in ritual for yourself that you can build and you can do for maybe 5 to 10 minutes before your workday. And over time, your brain will start to recognize this and it will make getting into the flow state so much easier. So my ritual that I usually do is, first of all, I write out a chronological plan for my workflow. But also I like to question the tasks that I'm doing and how well they align with my long-term goals. Because if I'm putting in tasks that just make me feel productive when they're actually going to have no effect on whether or not I achieve my goals, then I need to seriously consider if it's actually necessary. Number 2, I close any tabs that aren't related to my main task. So if I'm working on my laptop and I have Google Chrome tabs open and they are just the most random topics that aren't related to my work, then I close those, because if I slide past them and then I see them and think, oh, I gotta keep working on that, then it's gonna distract me and just not be good in the end. Number 3, I go to the bathroom so that obviously I don't get interrupted by needing to go to the bathroom in the middle of a flow session. I also fill up my water for the same reason. I then put in headphones and I play focus music, and then I do the Pomodoro method. So I set a timer for 25 minutes and then I take a 5-minute break after the timer goes off. I then repeat that for 2.5 hours and then take a half an hour break. So I want you to have a go at creating your own personal lock-in ritual and see what works best for you. It may take you a week or so to refine it, but just do it every single day, figure out what works best for you, and it's just gonna help you so much. Number 11, high nutrient versus low nutrient leisure. This isn't actually specifically covered in the Life Architect system, but it is embedded in some of the other sections. But I recently came across the terms high nutrient versus low nutrient leisure. I believe it was from a book called Time Magic by these two authors. I think they're like husband and wife. I could be wrong, but I read that book a few years ago and I remember hearing about that. And it was really interesting because in terms of our energy levels, it's really important how we choose to spend our leisure time, because often we think that whatever is the least effortful is the thing that is resting the most. So for example, laying on the couch scrolling on social media, it takes no effort, but the thing is that those things often drain our energy even more. So high nutrient leisure are things that increase our energy, and those are things like doing a puzzle or talking to a friend or going for a walk or, I don't know, building things like that. Whereas low nutrient leisure is sitting on the couch, eating pizza, watching TV, or going to parties where you go home at 2 a.m. and not being able to walk. It's not that you should never do these things again, it's just really important to understand the implications of that and just be aware of it and how it affects your energy. So after you finish doing a leisurely activity, then consider, how am I feeling now? Am I feeling better? Am I feeling more energized? Or am I just feeling drained and exhausted? And then of course we want to prioritize our time and energy for the activities that energize us. Because let's admit it, our work is tiring enough, exhausting enough as it is. We don't want to make it more exhausting by just distracting ourselves from how tired we are. Number 12, Pomodoro and flow. I did link to this a little bit before when I was talking about my lock-in ritual and setting a 25-minute timer. But the reason that I set a 25-minute timer is because our focus actually peaks at 23 minutes and then it declines from there. But if we can intercept that decline in focus with a 5-minute break, then we can basically reset our brain and start again at 0 minutes, and we can build up our focus again. And the combination of all that enables us to make it feel like our work is effortless because we've gotten into the flow state. And this state is when some of your highest quality work will be produced, such as this podcast episode. Now, I remember before what I said about the quick tasks, so the quick 5-minute tasks that take you 5 minutes. Those are the tasks that you're going to do in your 5-minute breaks. So for example, if you are scripting a reel, that might take you an hour. So you would put your headphones in, lock it in for 25 minutes. Then in that 5-minute break, you can go and hang out the washing or whatever. Obviously, this is going to look very different if you're working from home versus working in an office, but you get the idea. And also something really important, which I haven't specifically mentioned in the script, but when you take your breaks, make sure that they are really boring. So obviously doing tasks like around the house, those are pretty boring. But if you have no tasks left to do or you are tempted to scroll on your phone, I urge you not to, because if you do an activity that is more stimulating than the work that you're trying to get done, then when you return to the work, it's going to feel really hard and really boring. So do something that is really low stimulating, and that will actually make your brain crave getting back to the work because the work will be more stimulating than whatever break you had. So go for a break, literally looking at the wall, looking at the ceiling, walking around, just the most boring thing you can possibly do. Number 13 is meal planning. So I know it may sound tedious, but having some kind of plan or preparation for your meals really helps you to get the right nutrients, because having the right nutrients ensures that we are healthy and that we can focus properly to do our work. I'm not a nutritionist, that's full disclaimer. I have done a couple of courses in nutrition, but I'm not like a registered dietitian or nutritionist or anything. However, something that I have learned multiple times is a difference between high glycemic index versus low glycemic index foods. So high GI foods are things with lots of sugar or simple carbohydrates, versus low is complex carbohydrates. And simple carbohydrates take not very long to get broken down by the body, whereas complex ones take much longer. And so this is really important to know when we are preparing a lunch, because if we prepare a lunch that is like white rice and I don't know, just something really high in simple carbohydrates, then we're going to have a crash in the afternoon. Whereas if we have some brown rice and some lentils and things like that, that's going to sustain our energy for a lot longer. But ultimately, guys, fueling your body and your mind correctly is going to help your productivity so much. And number 14, the last one, is a morning workout. Literally so many studies have found that working out in the morning increases your energy and focus, and I can tell you firsthand that when I do a workout in the morning, I feel so much more top of my game, so much more ready to work versus if I don't. So I would strongly recommend it. It does not have to be anything long. You don't have to go to an Orange Theory class. You can literally just work out at home in your pajamas, or you can go for a walk, whatever suits you best. But I promise you that doing something to get your heart rate up just a little bit and move your body in the morning is going to help you feel so much more focused and so much more energized. That is all of the tips that I have for you in this episode. I really hope you enjoyed and found it helpful. If you did find this helpful, and if this podcast has changed your life in any way, then send me a DM on Instagram or leave a comment on this episode and let me know, because that would be the best thing ever, and I will personally congratulate you on your success. Again, if you really loved this podcast, then you can rate it on Spotify. In fact, I would love it if you rated it on Spotify. It would take you 10 seconds and helps this podcast get even further, and that would just be the best thing ever. So, and if you're on YouTube, then like and subscribe and all of that. And if you have any requests for episodes, then you can leave them in the comments and I will do my best to make them happen. But I hope you have the most amazing week ahead, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye bye.